is the risk versus reward when it comes to not only their investment strategy, but also their habits. We're going to
Hmm.
make sure that they're in line. Like we're going to understand, take the time to say all the things we talked about. What's important to them, who's important to them, what's the legacy they want to live. People think legacy is just about money. No, legacy is a ripple effect that you have on not only your life, your community, the people around you, and the people that you care about most. And so those are the first couple of changes that I'm going to make is, and then I'm going to see is, hey, what are they doing? Is it getting them or is it in line of where they want to be? And risk is huge because risk lets you know is, hey, what's the upside, but what's the downside?
What if happiness isn't waiting for you after financial success? What if the way you think about money is actually preventing both? Today's guest is a former professional basketball player, best-selling author, certified financial planner, entrepreneur, husband, father, and someone who spent years helping people become rich in money and rich in life. Welcome back to the Perpetual Growth Podcast, the show where we explore the strategies, insights, and stories that help you to grow your business, strengthen your relationships, and elevate your life. Because growth isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. Now, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with someone committed to living a life of continual growth. Today's guest is Dr. Nicholas E. Michels, CFP, Certified Financial Planner. Nick is the founder of Michels Family Financial, a certified financial planner, author of the best-selling book Rich by Choice, former professional basketball player in Germany, entrepreneur, husband, father, and financial educator. Over the last 15 years, he's helped individuals and families create financial security, confidence, and peace through comprehensive wealth planning. What I appreciate most about Nick's approach is that he doesn't just focus on building wealth. He focuses on building a meaningful life. Today, we're discussing financial freedom, budgeting and money habits, tax strategies, wealth building principles, the psychology of money, happiness and fulfillment, family legacy, and what it truly means to become rich in both money and life. Nick, welcome to the Perpetual Growth Podcast.
Hey, Zach, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to dive in with you today. Now, Nick, when most people hear the word wealth, they immediately
Hmm.
think about money, dollar signs.
Hmm.
After
Absolutely.
helping families for over 15 years, how do you define true wealth?
Man, Zach, that's a great question. It is. And when I was younger, I agreed with people. It's just dollar signs. Hey,
Yeah.
more money, higher money. I just, the high life, everything. You just want to think about dollar signs and commas. But now, as I've gotten a little older and I've had experience working with families all around the United States, there's a lot more to wealth than just money. And don't get me wrong, money is very important and is a very important part of wealth. I would say there's several different categories that people get excited about, and everyone's a little bit different. Not better or worse, just different. But when I think about wealth and a wealthy life, it's understanding those categories, whether it be faith, family, health and wellness, legacy, yes, dollars, but understanding those categories and being wealthy in all of those categories that are most important to you. That's
Mhm.
what I think of wealthy or a wealthy life.
Yeah. No, I love that. I used to use the word balance and now I can't stand it. To me, it's more about
Mm-hmm.
harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Having the
Yes.
synergy between each of those aspects of life, because we neglect any one, and to come back to one of those key principles that you talk about, that's where fulfillment can start to falter. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think having that conscious awareness is one of those important parts. Now, Nick, your story is fascinating. Like most financial advisors don't start as professional basketball players. you
It's
know,
true.
what was life like playing professional basketball in Germany?
Man, it was a lot of fun. It was a dream come true. And to be honest with you, Zach, I never, I mean, that growing up, it wasn't, I wasn't pegged for that. They were like, oh, this
Yeah.
kid's LeBron James. This kid's a five star. No, I wasn't. It was one of those things where I just kind of got a little better and a little bit better each year. And
Yeah.
then the doors opened. I'll tell you this. Do you ever see the show Seinfeld? You remember
Oh, of
Kramer on
course.
Seinfeld? Okay, you
Yeah.
remember when he was suing the coffee company? He walks in there, they offered him free coffee for life, and he just jumped at it. Was like, yeah, I'll do it. And his attorney was so mad at him. That was my agent when we were negotiating contracts because they were like, hey, we'll give you a roster spot and let you play basketball, and we might give you an apartment. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I wasn't allowed to negotiate contracts after that because it was
Yeah.
just a dream for me. Like it was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I mean, that's a great segue. I mean, what lessons from athletics still impact how you approach money and business today?
It is a lot. First of all, I love sports or any type of extracurricular for kids because it
Hmm.
teaches so much about life.
Agreed.
Persevering, work ethic, intentional daily commitment. It was wonderful. I was working out with the Mavs D League team when I was coming back in the off season, and I don't know if you remember this. He played basketball at Arizona, was a world champion with the Dallas Mavericks. It was Jason Terry.
Hmm.
Jason Terry is working out in the corner, and I just saw it. He had two rebounders passing the ball, and he was going to 10 spots around the three-point line. So he probably worked out for about 25, 30 minutes just consecutive. If you just see it, shooting three, shooting three, shooting three, spot after spot. He probably made 9 of 10 or 10 of 10 every spot.
Wow.
And being on that stage, just seeing it, that not only they're really good, but just the preparation, the work. And there's probably days that Jason didn't want to go to the gym, but he did it anyway because you can't do that and have that level of success without putting in the time. And that's basketball, that's sports, it's extracurricular for kids, whether it be music, dance, and business and life is the same thing. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And we're rewarded in public for what we practice in private. But I think one of the
Hmm.
biggest challenges today is so many people are not living a life by design. They're waiting for life to happen to them instead of deciding what they
Hmm.
want to happen for them. And it's a very different mentality. I mean, it makes me wonder. Well, a multitude of things. I mean, let
Hmm.
me ask you this: did you always
Sure.
know financial planning was your calling? I mean, where did that evolution come from? Again, I mean, you saw the power of
Yeah.
repetition, building
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
foundation. Was it a numbers game for you in basketball that somehow then translated to financial planning? I mean, how did everything come full circle to where you're at today?
Well, I was actually fortunate that where it really started was even before I went and played professional basketball. I got an internship, end of college, got an internship just because I needed a job, needed an internship, and I had a friend who was a financial advisor. And when I
Mhm.
got into that world, math was always easy to me, but you saw the impact you can make on
Mhm.
people and dealing with people. And probably go into this, Zach, but about my upbringing, I dealt with a lot of troubles, a lot of hardship as a kid coming up, and when
Mhm.
you get put into a position where you can help people overcome the same hardships that you experience, it was very rewarding. So I always say that basketball and finance were my two favorite passions, and I was just lucky enough to be able to do them both.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm.
I very much resonate with that too. I mean, the things that were the greatest challenges in my life are the greatest gifts that we can give to others because we can take those experiences and prevent other
Hmm.
people from having to pay what I call lovingly the dumb tax.
No, it is, and the thing about finances or life in general, like
Yeah.
the Dalai Lama said, every human being at the core of it, we're all the exact same. You could be this or that, tall, short, whatever. We're all the exact same. Every single human being is trying to do two things, which is overcome pain and increase joy. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody, and we all have a history of things that we're dealing with and things that we want to overcome, and it's very fulfilling when you try to in your purpose to help people do that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the money aspect of things. And one of the
Hmm.
first questions that's just been floating in the back of my mind is, I've had the blessed opportunity to coach and consult for thousands of individuals, predominantly in the business world. And
Hmm.
I always said I have to be a bit naive not to have mastered a certain degree of pattern recognition at this point. And frankly, it's just one of my superpowers. I mean, I'm really good with patterns and people.
Okay.
And one of the things that I wonder and think about a lot in today's world is, you know, I speak with more and more individuals who are being laid off after having committed decades to an organization, and they're going through these, major life shifts, challenges, and they're
Hmm. Hmm.
reevaluating what they want life to look like at this stage. And for many of them, they could be in midlife and beyond. Maybe it's 30s, 40s, maybe it's even 50s or farther down the road. And all of a sudden,
Hmm.
they're looking at the retirement account and going, "I don't have a retirement account." And Social Security is sure as hell not going to provide the quality of life that I want.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm able to just get by, but for our listeners that are maybe in that midlife stage,
Hmm.
or maybe they're ahead of the game and really wanting to prepare, what would you say to them? Like, if they're in their 40s, 50s, or maybe even beyond, and they've got nothing set to the side. I mean, is there still an opportunity to come back full circle and build a a life by their own design to create financial freedom? And
Hmm.
where do you recommend they start?
Oh my goodness. And first of all, yes, absolutely, there's still time. In fact, if you look at the numbers, all the books I've ever read and I love to read, they say life begins after 40 anyway, because the whole first 40
Yeah.
years of our lives we're trying to figure out what to do. But once
Yeah.
you get to be 40, you kind of understand and you start making
Hmm.
moves. And then
Hmm.
it was Dale Carnegie once said, the greatest wealth building time in your life is from ages 40 to 75. So
Yeah.
you're talking about later down the life. No, you have so much time. And what you don't
Hmm.
want to happen is be 10, 15 years down the road from now looking back and still haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So the first step would be to take a second, take a deep breath and understand, where do you want to go? Like,
Hmm.
what's the life that you want to live? And what I mean by that, Zach, is most people say, hey, I'm looking for $1 million or I'm looking for 100 million or what they have some sort of bogey out there. And there's
Arbitrary number.
nothing, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. But I challenge people to take a step or multiple steps forward, understand, okay, hey, that's a bogey, wonderful, but what life does that give you? Like, what are we really
Yeah.
searching for here?
Yeah.
It's Tuesday afternoon and I'm not working. What is my life like?
Yeah.
I have 4 kids. Chances are one of them might live out of state. Okay, when I become a grandpa and they live out of state, am I buying a second house there and spending months out of the year there? What is that relationship like? So you want to go into details of the exact specific life that you're wanting and
Hmm.
then work backwards from there. Okay, now what do I need for that? Because the answer is always not more. And there's nothing wrong with more, but sometimes you don't need to sacrifice joy and peace for more when you already could have the life that you want. So
Yeah.
going back
Yeah.
again, Zach, with the original question is, what can they do? Well, it
Yeah.
depends on, where they want to be. What kind of goal do they want? It could be just
Hmm.
setting aside and putting back X% into a retirement fund, taking matching. It could be, hey, getting into the real estate game or starting a business. I believe it was Harvard did a study, which is fascinating, and they talk about ROI. And the
Hmm.
ROI was the greatest return on investments ever. And number one was starting a business.
Hmm.
Starting a business or buying businesses and selling them. After that, I went into real estate in the stock market. Then it went down from there, bonds and cash alternatives. So
Hmm.
let's you know where what you can do. But what I love about finances is everybody's different, Zach. So I can't say this is A, B, and C right here because for
That's right.
somebody that might be perfect, but for a lot of
Yeah.
people that could be terrible advice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I love what you led with too. Is, I always say clarity is power, and
Mm.
unfortunately, f fuzzy targets also don't get hit. And most people, to your point, and I've spoken with countless individuals, I ask them what they want, and they're like, I want, to your point, $1 million or
Hmm.
$10 million, and it's like the real question is, what will that do for you? What do you plan to do
Yeah.
with those revenues? How
Hmm.
long is that actually going to last you? I mean, what type of life do you want to live? And here's one of the big things I found is people, the farther into adulthood they are, the greater the potential that they become jaded by previous life circumstances. And it can become the thing that creates that metaphorical prison where they've started to develop, in most cases, an unconscious belief system where
Hmm.
they are fighting for comfort. They're fighting for the devil they know. And, I always say, comfort is the real enemy. If we're coasting, we're going downhill. The whole life
Hmm.
that you want, 9 times out of 10 is outside of your comfort zone. You're going to have to get
No.
comfortable getting uncomfortable and do something different. Next level life requires next level decisions. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. Einstein's definition of insanity. I mean,
Oh,
here's another great question on that takes. I mean, we got to
sure.
create clarity, right? We need
Hmm.
and what I always invite people to do, and it sounds like you're going through that same process, is I'm like, okay, imagine you're a kid again. What do? We could dream up the most incredible universes.
Hmm.
Be that kid again for 5 minutes. Give yourself the
That's it.
opportunity to grab a pen and paper
Hmm.
and just start to write. If I could have anything, if I could live a life without limitation, if I had no
Hmm.
fear, what would I do?
Yeah.
What would I
I
want to
love
create?
it.
What experiences would I want to have for the kids, for the family, for my wife, for myself?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's another thing is lead with self. It's okay to be a little bit selfish. In order to be selfless,
Hmm.
you can't pour from an empty cup. So I love that principle and
Hmm.
that guiding North Star. On that same note, but opposite
Hmm.
parallel, why do you believe so many people make good money but still feel stressed?
Yeah, I call it outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. And it can be
Mm,
a number of different reasons because we all seen it. The people that have good paying jobs, they have the nice cars, the fancy jewelry and things like that. And I think the number one thing is they're what they do. They're using money they don't have to buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. I mean, and then what that is they're just kind of aimlessly going through life without what chasing after what they really want. I mean, I love,
mhm,
in fact, Zach, that's not the first time I've heard it. You pretend like you're a kid and design the life that you
mhm,
want. I think
mhm,
that's genius. I actually say, hey, pretend like the opposite side. Pretend like you're 120 years old and you're in a rocking chair and your life's about to be over. What specifically has to happen in your life for you to go, man, I did it. Like, what an amazing life. Like, I lived it. And I challenge people to think about the different categories, not just
mhm.
money, but the people, faith, wellness. And each one of those, what do you have to accomplish for the life that you have to live to be just extraordinarily happy and fulfilled? Life will
Yeah.
never be perfect. But I think that the kid analogy, that's genius, Zach. I love that. I
Mhm.
do.
I love both ends of the spectrum. That I call it
Hmm.
that the rocking chair test, which I think is each equally as profound, and especially if we can embody both. I mean, you might,
Hmm.
lead with the child and then go with the 100-year-old sitting on the front porch and going, "What did I overlook?" What I love about
Yeah.
your approach, Nick, I gotta say, is I've met a lot of financial advisors, a lot of planners over the years, and
Hmm.
there's the way that you integrate psychology into the process where it's not all just clinical. It's not just what's the bottom line, just the facts and the
Hmm.
figures. You get down to the real human. That's a beautiful
Hmm.
gift, brother. Like that's something that so many people don't get. They don't. I mean, it's more transactional, and where
Oh,
you're creating the relational component is so much more powerful. I mean, I can already anticipate that any of our listeners listening right now, they're like, "This is a guy that I'd want to work with." And you can clearly see why. We haven't even gotten deep yet. I mean, tell me this: like, what are some of the biggest financial mistakes that you consistently see?
well, that's one of them. Zach, what you just talked about described it, and I lived it. And the reason why I talk about it is because that was my life. I mean, when I first got married, I
Hmm.
was just like every other, person in the United States or around the world. My wife and I, we butted heads about money. I mean, we
Yeah.
weren't on the brink of divorce, but just like, I mean, money is the number one cause of
Hmm.
marital disputes. I mean, one of the leading causes
Sure.
of divorce. And guess what? I was in that boat, and we
Hmm.
kept butting heads, and it was my fault, Zach, because I
Yeah.
thought, me being a financial advisor, I was serving my wife by kind of
Yeah.
not really being dominant, but really handling the money and trying to set things up. But
Yeah.
it changed when we sat down together and did these vision boards and growth exercises, really write out the exact life we want in detail, not just, hey, this is our retirement home or dream home. Let's literally be very specific in all the details of where that home is, what it looks like, and the life that we want in all the different categories.
Yeah.
Okay, you asked the number one mistake is before that time, I was a financial advisor and saving and investing, Zach, it was boring. I didn't like it. You know what? Let me ask you, Zach, if you could save and invest or go spend and have fun, which one's more enticing to you?
Right.
I mean, so it
Exactly.
is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, once we got really clear on what we wanted to build together, not only it was a game changer for our marriage. I mean, we run businesses together, we run nonprofits together, my wife and I. It changed that, but also saving and investing became entertaining because we are building a
Yeah.
life together. So that's the number one thing is get
Cool.
that because you talked about outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. I think those
Yeah.
individuals, and I'm not judging them because I was obviously there is that
Yeah.
they haven't really got clear on, hey, what are we going after? What are we
Yeah.
pursuing? What are we passionate about? And, on top of that, if you look at, Facebook, cause of depression and anxiety has gone up because people look at Facebook and they make the comparison game.
Hmm.
Um, when you get very clear about what you want and the person you want to become, the life you want to live, all the people you want to help, you don't get as envious or jealous or looking at Facebook and envy syndrome. You can be happy for people, but you're so focused on, hey, what you're chasing down and excited about. I think that's the number one mistake people, they don't get intentional about the direction their life is going.
No, that's so wise, Nick. I mean, several things you just said. One, the intentionality. It's external versus internal. And if we're constantly external, then we are constantly chasing. Whereas when we go internal, now it's building something by our own design and creating that alignment, whether you are single or a couple. And I know many of our listeners are in, long-term relationships. Maybe you're married, maybe not yet, but I think that is such a simple but profound thing that I do not want anyone on this call to overlook is that power of alignment. Now, what I'm curious about, Nick, is I want to peel back the onion on that for a second because
Sure, sure, sure.
like, and I'll just use my wife and I, for example. I mean,
Okay.
she we are on opposite ends of the great polarity in virtually every context, like most
I love
spouses
it.
are.
I love it. Yeah.
There's power in polarity when we
Mm-hmm.
can learn to harness it and not, instead of it becoming conflict and friction, we use it as an opportunity to grow and evolve as humans, both
Mm-hmm.
together and independently. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I have to imagine, I don't want to assume, but I presume that maybe you were more of the driver that brought up the idea of the vision boards. Now, this is just a curiosity, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
has she always been entrepreneurial? Was she open to that idea? Was she resistant? Was she the one that brought the idea? And you were like, I don't know, this seems kind of woo-woo. Like, how did that
Yeah.
come together for you guys?
No, and that's a really good question, Zach. It really is because no one's really asked me that. When we started butting heads and having these money, they're like the same money conflicts and disagreements over and over again. I realized, I mean, one or two things. I could just live with it and deal with it, or number two, go searching for answers because obviously
Mm,
what I was doing was not working.
right.
So I sought mentorship and like wise counsel, and they gave me books to read, and they also gave me exercises to do. And so
Hmm.
that's where I started the vision board and things like that, doing that exercise. Lo and behold, I come back one day from work and my wife was doing it by herself. Like, because I did it just me because that was the part of the exercise. Then she did it and it would just kind of happen and we come together and we had a lot of things that were similar, but then we had a
Yeah.
lot of things that were different. And I would say most people, they'll say, yeah, we're different, but they don't take the time to really understand, okay, how specifically are we different? One might be
Yeah.
a natural saver, a natural spender. Well, really, there's no better or worse. Most people think, hey, if you're a natural saver, you're better. It's a better quality than being a natural saver. And I would say, or a natural spender, and I would disagree with that. I mean, just think about it. If you're a natural saver, yes, you invest, you pay down debt, but usually you don't have a lot of fun and you're not a very
Yeah.
generous person. Okay, so
Yeah.
and again,
Yeah.
I have many weaknesses, so I'm not judging anybody, but if you look at
Sure.
a natural spender, man, they have a lot of fun. And they will give you
Yeah.
the shirt off their back and say, hey, come with me, we're having a great time, but they're usually high debt. But the point what I'm saying is, and you brought this up, Zach, is
Hmm.
understand specifically the psychology behind yourself and those who you love to where you get a clear understanding. And then what's great is we have technology now and you can make things automated that get to take advantage of what everybody wants and desires and everyone's happy. So I'll give you that example again. Natural
Hmm.
saver, natural spender. First money comes in, natural saver, hey, if you're putting so much back, paying off debt, investing for the future, the natural saver's happy. The natural spender, if you take a certain percentage and you put back towards giving and money in your account, that's called like a fund money that you have to spend on travel and family fun days. So you just need to understand who we are and what drives us, and then you can set up things in a line with money and your time.
Mm. Yeah. No. I mean, so talk a little bit more about what you mentioned. You brought up a tool.
Hmm.
Are there any tools in particular that you might recommend that could be a great starting point for people to explore and create that initial alignment? And I guess what specifically are the outcomes of the tool or tools that you mentioned?
Yeah, so the vision statement is the first tool is taking down and what you specifically do is, get 10 pieces of paper
Hmm.
and you take about 45 minutes to an hour and you go to a quiet place and you write down everything you want in life. Every single thing. And what helped me is I create categories first, like in faith and family and
Hmm.
relationships, business, money. And then I get to write down and all the details. And then what you do is the second step is you go back and you circle what is most important to you. Now, what I mean by that is, Zach,
Hmm.
I had this couple on their first run through, they had his and her Mercedes. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it came down to it, were they willing to work a little longer or put back more, sacrifice a little more to achieve that? And the answer is no. So they became very clear about, hey, what are things they want, but what is most important to them? So that's the number one tool I'd say, because it all starts from there. I mean, how are you supposed to end up and get to where you want if you have no idea where you're going? That
Hmm.
is the very first one. And if you don't know that, because these are tough questions, Spend some time in meditation and reflecting and ask yourself before you go to bed at night, what is the life that's going to make me happy? And your
Mm,
subconscious will take over, and over the next couple of days, you'll start to see things that you might want and to enjoy. But it all
mhm,
starts from there. That is it. And then from there, yes, there's a step-by-step process of understanding where your money's going, budgeting. You're going to work 90,000 hours of your life working. Okay,
mhm.
so if we're going to spend 90,000 hours of our life working, wouldn't it be somewhat smart to understand, hey, where's my money going? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? All this
yeah,
time, is it aligned? And then
yeah.
my budgeting technique is a little bit different, Zach, in the sense that it's not just X's and O's. It's okay, now look at your budget and what's moving the needle. Like how much
Mm.
money do you and I spend, Zach, that probably A, we don't even know we're spending on, but B, it's really not bringing us any more joy, peace, happiness, or helping us get closer to our end goals.
And
So
is easy to justify.
Absolutely, it is. It's
Yeah.
just taking the time to do it. I mean, but then from there, tools with technology, it's amazing. There's just so many things out there that you can take advantage of.
Yeah. You know, what would you say causes people to feel trapped financially? Is it lack of vision? Is it that they're earning a certain earned income and they don't see a way to earn more? Is it they start to earn more and then as a byproduct, most people start to spend more and they haven't, built that foundation? Like what,
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably no one thing, but what are maybe some of the most common things that cause people to feel trapped financially? And what are
Mm-hmm.
maybe a handful of suggestions that they can start to implement now to help carry them out? I mean, obviously we've got clarity. I mean, you have to
Mm-hmm.
have a vision where focus goes,
Mm-hmm.
energy flows. I mean, I tell people this all the time is the truth is most people focus on their problems. And then
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You tend to get more of them. If we can consistently shift the focus to the things that we want, we're
Yeah.
exponentially more likely to attract those things into our lives too. But you got to get
Mm-hmm.
clear on what you want first. And then we got
Mm-hmm.
to get alignment, particularly in a partnership dynamic. And then we have to actually create a real plan. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
outside of those three steps that you mentioned so far, are there other pieces that cause people to feel more trapped financially? And are they more psychological than they really are practical? Like, talk about that
Mm-hmm.
if you would.
Oh, there's a ton. I mean, there really is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to list some, and they're not in any order of importance. But number one is, yeah, the mental side. I mean,
Hmm.
the mind is incredibly powerful. And you just hit on it. What you focus on, you will get more of.
Yep.
That
Yep.
is so important. If you tell yourself, my life is terrible, I'll never have any better, it probably won't happen or it won't. Going back to what you just talked about, Zach, most people, once you start taking small little steps towards your goal and it doesn't even have to be the whole plan mapped out, but just once you start taking little baby steps towards the life you want, psychology and all the data will tell you more peace, more joy will enter your life, less anxiety, less stress. So that's it. But number one thing I see people is it's not their fault. People want to do the right thing. They're trying to do the right thing, but they just don't know what to do. I mean, think about it. With the technology now, it's paralysis by analysis. There's so much information out there. And that's the thing I'm really careful when it comes to finances. There's a lot of really good information. But finances are so detailed that what worked for one person might not work for another. So when people just see, oh, XYZ works for Bob, wonderful. God bless Bob. But that might not be good for Susie. And so that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. Or they might have tried something that worked for Bob and it didn't work for them, or they got bad advice. That's the biggest thing where they lose hope.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I
Yes.
try to do is give people hope of, hey, it can be better. I promise you it can be better, but I hope it happens on its own, but it's probably not going to happen on its own. You have to take the steps forward and put out a little bit of effort and start to improve this little by little. It's not going to improve overnight, but hope
Hmm.
is, oh my goodness. And I had this lady come in and she was sitting with me and she was just recently divorced. And then
Hmm.
poor girl, I mean, she got the bad end of the stick. I mean, she's a wonderful lady, but it was a terrible divorce. And in our first couple meetings, she just cried. And I really didn't know what to say.
Hmm.
But finally we started to talk. And I helped her find what I call her money emotion. Because Zach, people
Hmm.
aren't looking for money. They're looking for what money can do for them. And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with
100%.
that. It's the life
Hmm.
they're going to live, the things they can buy. But it finally clicked with her. She wanted, which is a very popular one, but financial independence. But the reason why it's powerful, she goes, I never want to be in this position again. I never want to have to totally rely on someone where I can't stand on my own 2 feet. And
Hmm.
financial independence, and a light bulb went off in her head, and all of a sudden she got real clear about what was she was searching for. And I can tell you today, she's a multimillionaire. I mean, she's found
Wow.
love again, which I'm so excited for, but she's doing it on her terms to where she's going in to where, hey, she's in love, and she's enjoying life, but she's completely financially independent, will remain that way the rest of her life. You know how powerful that is. Now, it didn't happen overnight, but
Sure.
she got very clear on what she wanted. And then also, too, I did show her a way that it could be done. So those are two things that like, I hope is in what you tell yourself and what goes through your mind are great first steps.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I absolutely love that, Nick. I mean, there's so much. Those stories are fantastic too, because it reminds everybody that, life's going to happen. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not a question of if we're going to have problems. I mean, the only people that don't have problems are in the graveyard. Problems are a sign of life. It's just
Mm-hmm.
what meaning we apply to those problems. And in so many cases, if we actually take a moment to really step back and reflect on any of life's challenges, nine
Mm-hmm.
times out of 10, they become a springboard to something even better. A problem is only a problem, I always say, if it's perpetual and pervasive. In other words, if we stay
Mm-hmm.
there. But
That's
when we
it.
can find what's beautiful in that challenge, in that moment, now we create an opportunity to break through to that next level that much faster. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what inspired you, Nick, to write Rich by Choice? And what does that title actually mean to you?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, Zach. You know, what inspired me is all the things that I learned. You know, when I was a kid, I was the middle youngest of four wild and crazy boys, and my dad was an entrepreneur. He was. We weren't
Yeah.
rich, but we were comfortable. And, one day my parents divorced, and my mom went from a stay-at-home mom of four to a single mom of four working three jobs. So literally overnight, I saw two sides of this world. I mean, as you can imagine, I mean, from a decent, comfortable life to, oh my goodness, big house to small house. And what I remember, Zach, is it wasn't the stuff, wasn't the
Hmm.
things that were missing. Big house on one side of town to the tiny little uh, tiny home on the other side of town. It wasn't that. It was the emotional, physical pain
Hmm.
that I watched and had to live through. Well, witnessing my mom and my brothers go through,
Hmm.
and I thought that hey, it was money only. I really did because I saw flip side of the coin, the two different worlds almost, and I thought, okay, once I get this money back and I have more money, it'll all go back to being better. And as I got older through my life, whether it be playing professional basketball and investing the money, becoming a financial advisor, having quick success, my monetary income and status started to grow, but my joy and happiness wasn't going along with it like I always
Hmm.
thought it would. So I call this the roller coaster of life. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is there's several different areas in our life. Like I just started talking to like our money and wealth started to grow, but my marriage wasn't going up with it. I was still having
Hmm.
difficulties in those areas. And so my goal was is I went searching for answers and I found different secrets to all these different categories of life and how they can all align. And so that's what inspired me is because Zach, I had so much help along the way.
Hmm.
So much help. Um, and I just felt the need to, hey, I wanted to share it with people and say, hey, it can be better. I mean, look at my life. I mean, I was a wealthy kid to a poor kid to a quote unquote wealthy adult, but then at the same time, I was a poor adult. And so this roller coaster of having to get all things aligned and improved on was a process. And
Hmm.
so, and it works. And I wanted to give it to people that way they can have, the same joy. Now, what I am very honest about, Zach, is my life's not perfect. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness, it's still not perfect.
Hmm.
But what I can experience is, more joy, more peace, more excitement, and less of, the stress, the anxiety. And that's what I want for other people.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing that story. I mean, I have some, similar parallel. My dad did very well when we were younger.
Hmm.
He got the short end of a stick in a business venture, and I'll just leave it at that. And um, I just watched it become the beginning of a very long arduous journey for him and my mom. And it seemed like he never broke that pattern of getting out of the financial stress threshold. We had such a great life as kids. And, they still continued to. I think dad still found a way without making as much as he used to still
Hmm.
live life to the fullest. But I don't feel like he ever felt that way is the
Hmm.
is the irony behind it. And the thing, my dad's older now and struggling with a pretty significant health issue, and they just left after visiting. And I've been thinking about,
Okay.
wanting to write him a letter and just tell him everything that all the values that he shared, like how he's helped sculpt my brother and I, and while we've taken very divergent tracks, my brother and I, he went more of the conventional route. I went more of the entrepreneurial, risky route, so to speak. And
Hmm.
but just what it's meant and the things that to your point were
Hmm.
more meaningful than all that were never the things. It was the
Hmm.
experiences and the fact
Hmm.
that he never missed one of our uh, games. Like, I mean, as a child, I
Hmm.
can never think of being at a track meet, football game, basketball game, anything where he was not there and present you
I
know,
love it.
and
Hmm.
find that time for us. Even when he was tired after a long day at work, we'd be outside playing basketball together, throwing the baseball around, or whatever the things were. And it was boating the Puget Sound. So man, I love that principle of that again. It doesn't have to become that sticking point. It's why I'm so conscious of our thoughts and how they define the ultimate direction. And
Hmm.
what I'm wondering is if you have somebody that's going through that time, and we've talked about it. You just said midlife can actually be the greatest springboard. That's where most wealth is built. But so for
Hmm.
somebody that's coming off maybe right now that's listening that's gone through this incredible what feels like major transformational period. Maybe they're struggling with fraud and they just
Hmm.
lost a significant amount of money. Maybe it was just a poor investment decision. Maybe
Hmm.
they lost the job. Where would you recommend? What do they do now? How do they
Hmm.
help reset that psychology, build that frame? Is it starting with just the dream? I mean, and I can imagine that some people are like in their mind, they're going, F that, I can't even think about what I want. I'm so stuck in scarcity.
Yeah,
Like where
yeah,
where where
yeah.
what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think the first thing I had a couple come in and they were really down on the dumps. They didn't have anything like a fraud situation happen to them, but I
Hmm.
think they woke up one morning and realized they weren't necessarily doing the things financially that they should have been doing the last 10 or 15 years and they got a little behind or quite a bit behind. And they were really bummed because possibly, the total dollar figures or whatever investments weren't where they wanted it to be. And so
Hmm.
that, I mean, that can be the result of just not doing anything or a result of bad catastrophic things happening. But either way, you wake up and you're just not where you want to be.
Hmm.
But as I started talking to them, uh, they actually had a pretty great life. I mean, Zach, think about it. The dad went on golf trips with his son multiple times a year, was invited by not only his son, but his son's buddies to go be and to spend that time. They were super close with their daughter and moved to live next door to them. Integrated that, in the grandma and grandpa nicknames. And so as I got started to talk with them, they quickly realized again, different areas of wealth that, yeah, over here on the money side, which is important. Okay, I'm a financial advisor. I'll tell you it is important. But they had so many different areas of wealth and they're in good health that they didn't realize. I've known people that have chased money, 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 and they got to that whatever 50, 100 million, billion-dollar marker, and all these other areas they didn't have, and they woke up and regretted it. And so what I tell people, it's a good time to reset and think about it. And first, I promise you, if you're alive today and you live in the United States of America and you have good health, you got a lot going for you. I mean, I
Hmm.
remember a part of me playing basketball and going all around the world. It gave me great life experience and perspective that not, I don't, I know the United States is not perfect, but oh my gosh, we are so blessed. I mean, think
Hmm.
about it, Zach. If you wake up tomorrow and you want to start a real estate empire, could you?
Yep.
Yes. If you wake up tomorrow and you want to go into oil and gas or banking or what, could you do it?
100%.
Yeah. Oh my
Hmm.
God. I mean, so we are. So and I think that's the first step is understand the areas that you are rich. But then, yes, it's you got to realize and understand what you want, and then you got to ask yourself, okay, everything good in life is going to take work ethic. You remember Nick Saban? Nick Saban, everyone wants to be a
Hmm.
champion, but no one wants to feel the pain. Everyone wants
Yeah.
to be a champion, but no one wants to pay the price. I mean, I was
Yeah.
playing college, we were playing Oklahoma, and I was in college basketball, and there was only 12 seconds left. And I do a little shimmy shake, and I get fouled. And I make both free throws, so we go up one. We were down one. Now I hit two free throws, we go up one. So now there's only 8 seconds left. The point guard's coming up the floor. I pick him up. I'm backpedaling because Zach, when you're only down one, the smart play is to attack the rim, right? The highest
Hmm.
percentage shot in basketball. So I'm
Hmm.
giving him space coming back, and all of a sudden he stops 3 feet short of the three-point line and lets it rip. And I remember I put my hand up because he caught me off guard. I jump up to try to block it. And as that ball left his hands, I remember thinking this. I go, please, God, No.
Yeah.
And I turn around and nothing but the bottom of the net. They win by
Yeah.
two, we lose. But the point I'm saying is
Hmm.
there is going to be challenges along the way. And
Hmm.
at that point in time, I had two options. And I felt, don't get me wrong, I cried. Zach, I did. I broke, heartbroken, just one of those tough losses in life.
Hmm.
But I felt sorry for myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I felt the emotion, I felt sad. But that next day, I made a choice that I could either, give up, whine about it, woe is me, or I could, just get back to work and keep grinding. Now
Hmm.
that's not a story like as sad as someone being fraud or scam. And I'm not trying to make them even. I'm just
Sure.
saying, hey,
Yeah.
you're going to go through tough times. It's going to happen.
Hmm.
You just have to ask yourself, hey, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the
Yeah.
outcome the life you want? Are we ready to get back to work? And I think that's the most important because I think human beings, we are capable of anything we set our mind to. I mean, we are remarkable individuals. It's just, is it worth it to you?
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's 2 points to be made there. I mean, one, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. You can have all the money in the world, but if all the other categories of life are lacking, then what do you really have? But then the
Mm-hmm.
other side of it is, the one thing that used to drive me nuts, and I remember one of my old mentors I worked with, he said the same thing, and now I've heard it, is when people would say to you, "It must be nice. It must be nice." And it's like, you have no idea what
Yeah.
I have gone through, what I have sacrificed to
Mm-hmm.
create what I have created thus far in life. And I'm
Oh,
not
yes.
done yet. But that's the
Good for
thing is, it comes back to that Facebook analogy you talk about is people are looking at all the sunshine and rainbows and they're not seeing the trials, tribulations, and struggles. It's one of the reasons I speak so openly oftentimes about exactly those is I want people to realize, it's not all ivory towers and gold-plated toilet seats. Like you're going to go through
mm.
some really freaking difficult seasons. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Nick, as we wrap up today's episode, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
clearly seeing right now that we're gonna have you back because there's way more that we can get into. But one thing I wanted to ask is let's assume that one of our listeners gives you full and complete control of their finances for the next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would be the first three changes that you'd be most likely to make? And that's probably to your point earlier, a very difficult question to answer because no
Yeah.
two people are the same, and I want everybody to
Mm-hmm.
hear that first. But
Yeah.
fundamentally, what are the three biggest levers that you're most likely to pull?
Yeah, I'd say it's in alignment. The first three levers I'm going to look at is number one, risk. I mean,
Hmm.
what are they doing, and what is the risk versus reward when it comes to not only their investment strategy but also their habits? We're going to make
Hmm.
sure that they're in line. Like we're going to understand, take the time to say all the things we talked about. What's important to them? Who's important to them? What's the legacy they want to live? And Zach, I didn't even tell you this, but I need you to absolutely write that letter to your dad because I
Yeah.
didn't mention
Yeah.
it. And I challenge anybody who's listening right now, do the same thing because I guarantee once your dad gets that letter, he won't even think about money or anything that because that's so important because people think legacy is just about money. No, legacy is a ripple effect that you have on not only your life, your community, the people around you, and the people that you care about most. And so those are the first couple of changes that I'm going to make is and then I'm going to see is hey, what are they doing? Is it getting them or is it in line of where they want to be? And risk is huge because risk lets you know is hey, what's the upside, but what's the downside? And when I remember this, when I first started interning back in the 2007, 2009 crash, I remember talking with people that weren't clients, but as they were going through it, who lost a lot, they
Yeah.
really didn't know what they had, what they owned, and why they owned it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they had things that they thought were just very simple. Most people think if I told you, Zach, hey, you have a bond fund right now, a bond fund, you
Mm-hmm.
say, well, Nick, that's pretty safe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the bond funds out there were highly leveraged, which
Yeah.
turned it into more like an equity or a high volatile investment to where they lost 80%. Most people didn't realize they could. This is an extreme example, but most people don't understand what they own, why they own it. What's
Mm-hmm.
the upside? What's the downside? And how does that fit in and be correlated? Number two is taxes. Zach, taxes are huge. No, and taxes are confusing, but no one takes time to understand the tax code and how they
It's
can
not
use
only
it.
the
Now,
money we make, it's the
it
money we
is.
keep.
It is. And I have
Yeah.
no problem paying taxes. I love the United States of America. I'm so
Yeah.
proud to be a U.S. citizen. But the thing is, there's tax codes out there that most people don't even know exist and you can take
Hmm.
advantage of that help you, not only now, but they don't take the time. Also, again, understand what's my tax situation like 5 or 10 years down the road? These are all just very, very important things that we do to help people. And then, hey, how do you protect it?
Hmm.
Oh, if you're going to take the time to build something, make sure you know it's protected, not only while you're alive, but after you're gone and the generations to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
And these are things that they're they sound simple, but they're pretty complex, but a lot of people aren't doing them, and I don't understand why.
Well, that's the purpose behind it, having that's the power of a guide. And I think that's one of the things too is we oftentimes think it should be simple, it should be easy. We've been conditioned to think that we should be able to do this all on our
Hmm.
own. But one of the
Hmm.
greatest gifts that I've ever gotten from my mentors is being able to avoid those costly mistakes, condense their decades of knowledge into days so I can get the same results faster. So smartest
Hmm.
thing I believe that we can all do, and this works across context from our relationships to parenting to health to finance to business, is get the right guide. And Nick, you would be a great gift as a guide. Now, one thing I want to ask you as we wrap up
Hmm.
is imagine it's many decades from now. Your
Okay.
children, your grandchildren, your clients, the families you've helped, they're all talking
Hmm.
about your impact. What would you hope they say your life's work stood for?
Yeah. The thing is, would be he helped make our life better.
Hmm.
I mean, really, that really is that he had a small part in any success, any joy, any meaning that they had, and that's very fulfilling to me.
Hmm.
Especially not only, and my kids are right in there too. Obviously my
Yeah.
kids, I want to be in their top three best friends.
Hmm.
But just if they look at the ripple effect of their life, did I happen to play a small role in it? It doesn't have to be the main role; it can be a very small role. But if I did that, I'm very pleased.
Yeah, I love that, Nick. And Nick, for those that want to learn more about your work, one, grab a copy of Rich by Choice, or maybe they want to connect with you directly. But where can
Hmm.
they find you?
Yeah, and I'm so happy you brought that up. It's like I got a free gift for everyone, and it
Oh,
actually really
amazing.
aligns with your show.
Yeah,
Because that's what's different about the book, because there's so many different categories to wealth, just like your podcast, which
yeah.
I love. It's
Hmm.
genius. And you want to be intentional, and like you use that word harmony, you want to be intentional in working on those. So when I say the word compound, most people think compound interest, right? And very
Hmm.
popular. And so I have a free chapter that we put into a PDF. If they go to richbychoicebook.com, www.richbychoicebook.com, click on free gift, you'll click on compounding by choice. And what it does is it shows you all the different areas in your life that are compounding. And if something's not growing, it's dying. And this
Yeah.
chapter, we've seen thousands upon thousands of success stories all around the world. And it's something I'm really excited about, and it helped me in my own life because we help walk you through exercises that you get to understand, hey, what are those areas? Because everyone's a little
Hmm.
bit different, nothing, not right or wrong, better or worse, just a little bit different. And you
Yeah.
get to understand it. But then also we have small little daily and weekly activities that you can start to implement, and you start to see
Cool.
those tick upwards. And I say, it's not where you're at tomorrow, but where you at, 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now. And when
Yeah.
we get to that end goal, do you have the life you want? It's all these different areas. Money is a part of it, but it's not everything. So if they go to
Yeah.
richbychoicebook.com, right there, they can connect with me, but they can also get this free gift, Compounding by Choice. And Zach, I hope it helps you and everyone just as much as it's helped me.
I appreciate that, Nick. I mean, thank you. What a gift. I mean, and make sure you guys look up Michael's Family Financial. Find the book, Rich by Choice. Go to richbychoice.com and is it Rich by Choice book? Rich by
Yeah,
Choice? Yeah.
richbychoicebook.com.
.com. So, and I'll make sure we got that in the show notes as well. So you guys have no problem finding Nick anywhere and everywhere. And Nick, this has been a fantastic conversation. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I took away today is that wealth isn't simply about accumulating more money. It's about creating more freedom, more peace, more confidence. I mean, more opportunities to spend time with people who matter most. I mean, live a life by your own design. Money is a powerful tool, but when it's aligned with purpose, family, values, and intentionality, it becomes something much more meaningful. So, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your story, and your perspectives with us today, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.